one of the biggest turning points for me was leaving a teaching career to be a full-time musician. And that was eye-opening, and I was like, okay, cool, well, now you're living your dreams and you're doing this, but what are you going to write about? And then it was being on the road and knowing that there was a greener pasture, quote unquote, to go back to teaching. I could always do that. I had got my license, I could do that, but purposefully not, because this thing felt more important. It felt more impactful. And it was so hard.
Welcome to Curious Goldfish, a podcast community where music and curiosity come together. Interesting conversations with the music makers of our world. I'm your host, Jason English. You can find Curious Goldfish on all the major podcasts and social media platforms. And of course, we have all of our content on our website, curiousgoldfish.com. Imagine being in the audience for one of Billy String's first performances. Imagine being a student at the University of Virginia in Charlottesville in the mid-1990s to witness some of Dave Matthews' first shows. I'm sure there was a sense of both wonder and curiosity during those early days. Wonder at their raw talent and curiosity about just how far they might get to go. Well, that's the sentiment felt by my friends and me when we first saw Cousin Curtis at a music festival in early 2024. The talent was obvious, the joy was contagious, and with each performance we witnessed, we left longing for more. Cousin Curtis and his musical collaborator Harrison B. are touring the United States in 2024, literally, from Colorado to New England, Georgia to Indiana, back to Colorado, and then again the Southeast. They are crisscrossing the country, hoping to spread the gospel of a unique musical blend infused with happiness and gratefulness. You can sense they're about to bust it wide open, with opportunities to open for Blackberry Smoke and Los Lobos on the horizon. Cousin Curtis and Harrison B. are one of those acts that will undoubtedly leave people wanting to see them again, maybe even more so than the bands they are opening for. Their music is unique, as is their story. Both hailing from the American West, they connected in Alaska, of all places. I was fortunate to connect with them while they came through Atlanta. I got to spend an afternoon with them on the golf course with my good friend Jeremy Fort, and we later hosted the duo for a special backyard show at Jeremy's house. A couple of songs from that performance round out this episode, and I caught up with Cousin Curtis and Harrison B. in between golf and the Red Stool session. You'll soon be able to watch the entire performance from Roswell, Georgia, on YouTube. It's quite the setting, and it was another standout performance. So here's Harrison B. from Seattle, Washington. And from Montrose, Colorado, here's Cousin Curtis. Let's dive in. What's up, fellas?
What's going on, people? How are we doing today?
Welcome to Roswell, Georgia.
It's good to be here.
Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
You guys are in the middle of a crazy... First off, it's Cousin Curtis and Harrison B. live in preparation for a show here in Atlanta. But yeah, you guys are in the middle of a crazy tour. Is this like the biggest tour you guys have done?
It's
one
of the longer ones consecutively, but it doesn't. Sometimes it doesn't feel like it stops. It just kind of there's momentary breaks, and then we're just back out and we're doing it again. Yeah. But this is right smack dab in the middle of about a 5-6 week run of shows.
And you're based in Colorado, Curtis, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Harrison, you're based in Seattle.
Correct.
So you guys packed up and road. It's like road trip. Yes, it's basically up and down the Eastern Seaboard, right?
Pretty much, yeah. That and the heartland of America, and then going back out west.
Yeah, well, that's exciting. Do you typically tour when you tour? Welcome to Curious Goldfish, a podcast community where music and curiosity come together.
It's
interesting conversations.
Yeah, it's a good question. It's all over the place. So it's.
I'm your host, Jason English.
We go as far as
you can
Alaska,
find Curious Goldfish
Maine,
on all the major
California,
podcast and social media platforms,
Northwest, all the way down to
and of
Florida.
course, we have all of our content on our website, curiousgoldfish.com.
Cohesively, and then a lot of this whole tour has been kind of there were the landmarks, there were the cornerstones of the shows, and then filling in the blanks here and there have happened a little bit last minute, more so than some of the other tours, but in like the best way imaginable.
You're able to like fill in spots that are kind of on
that's
in
right
route, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to ask about your backgrounds, individually, but let's start with like you guys coming together. When did that happen, and how did that happen?
That happened many years ago, probably like 5-6 years ago. We met for the first time in Alaska. We both have ties up there, and went to a show that Harrison B. was playing with his band and just fell in love with the sound, the style, the music. And then we continued to be in the same scene together, meet up at festivals, started playing together, and then it just kind of took off. We had some really great opportunities. We kept chasing it, and now it's full-time, and we're 4 feet apart from one another for 90% of the year, every year for the last 3 years.
Right.
Amen to that.
Yeah. So it's been about 3 years then.
Yeah.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. So it was Alaska,
Mm-hmm.
right? Were you guys? Were you in a band, Harrison?
Yeah, I was just from the power trio that I did for a number of years, kind of before me and Curtis really started running real hard.
Yeah. Okay. So it's, you guys both play guitar, then you have a kick drum.
Yes.
And a harmonica.
Yes.
I've seen you a couple times at the 30A festival. You guys sound like you're like a 5-piece. Right.
Thanks.
The two of you.
Thanks, man. Yeah.
I bet that's intentional, right?
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. And we've been very deliberate about how do we do this? How can we cover all of the like spectrums dynamic wise of the EQ, from the low end of kick drum, bass guitar, all the way up to the highs of acoustic harmonica, vocals, etc. And it's been a journey. It didn't start like that. So it's been fun to like get done playing the show and being like, there's room here. We can fill something here. How do we do that? And going so far as to like nerd out on ways, and I feel like you should take over on this part, especially with the electric guitar, but like finding ways to do something that we are not seeing other people do. And that doesn't mean that it's not happening, but it's fun to believe in the pioneership, if that's a word, of what we're doing as a 2-piece band.
Right. Mm-hmm. If someone was to ask, because when you guys are coming to town, people are like, well, what kind of music is it? And I kind of struggled to describe it because I don't know if there's a
good.
I don't know if there's a good description, right? I was like, it's kind of rock, it's kind of country. I don't know. It's like jam country. I don't know.
It used to be like the tagline phrase was like blues at bluegrass speeds, and now it's really gravitated towards more of like a rock Americana high energy vibe. I don't know if there's been some other words that like people have taken creative license with a bio that we send them, and then they doctor it up some way, and it's like, hey, that's not bad. That's a good way to put it. It's been fun.
Yeah, I would say, if, in terms of standard words, rock and Americana get thrown out there a lot. But ultimately, everything that either you or Curtis or anyone else is using to describe it, probably accurate, because it's so many different things kind of blended up into a sound that, depending on what song it is, it's what influences we're actually chasing. So,
mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's neat.
Yeah.
So I mentioned the 30A Singer-Songwriter Festival, and you guys are playing a bunch of festivals, but also back to Opelika, which is also a singer-songwriter festival. Do you consider yourself a singer-songwriter?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it might be a little bit different in some people's eyes because they might hear us and be like, well, that's not singer-songwriter, but it's like, well, we are singers and we are songwriters by definition. So it just might be a little bit different.
Yeah.
And it's neither good nor bad. It's just that we are doing that job, so to speak, and it just happens to be in a very high energy and kind of in your face way of like presence.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, because I think most, I love singer-songwriters, but sometimes you want to go jump off a bridge, after listening. Like for you guys, it is the opposite. I mean, I think the big thing with you all when we saw you, me and my friends saw you in January, and I think I told you this when I saw you. There's so much joy.
Yeah.
When you're performing, I mean, it's actually like you exude it at the beginning, the middle, and the end. And everyone can't help but feel joyful when they listen to you. So it's kind of like the opposite of traditional singer-songwriters, right?
Right on, man.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah.
I think there's elements there where if you dig into the lyrics and if it were played in a certain way, then you would have that that internal look of what you're listening to and where did the song come and the stories behind it. But I think for us, it's just so much fun to just I don't know, go hard, I guess.
Yeah, the way I kind of see it, you can only get so far with an acoustic guitar. And so at the core of it, everything that we do on that stage, everything that we play, could be easily represented with just such. But kind of what we bring to the table is, more of a fleshing out of that. And with just two dudes, it can fit into some of these festivals that otherwise a band might not be able to come into. But we've got a footprint that is consistent with a singer-songwriter for the most part. So it just kind of seems to work, man.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah.
Where do you think the joy comes from?
Doing it. Yeah, no, there's it's not faked. It's genuine. It's truly fun. And at the beginning of every show, this is kind of like a peek into my brain, but I'm looking around at where we are and trying to take it in. Are we outside? Are we inside? Are there lights? Is there haze? Are people here? Are they not here? Does it matter? Who cares? And I'm trying to just enjoy the room, and that's where I start. And then from there, the rest of the night is great because now we're just playing music and we're doing what we love. And yeah, some nights are harder, or some nights we're tired or whatever. But in that moment, that is pure joy, and so it's fun to be able to share that.
Yeah, no, it completely comes across. So do you all both write songs?
We do.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think you mentioned before we started the show that you're working on a studio album. Is that something where you're both going to have songs that you've co-written or each written separately, or is it mostly Curtis or is it mostly Harrison?
Hoping for the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
I feel like we both have backgrounds that started in something similar, but we've lived completely different lives. And playing to each other's strengths is really what we're working towards, and leaning on one another to be like, what do you think? And trusting one another and having, that safety net during the creative writing process. Because I don't know, before we started playing together, what your background was with co-writing, but I did not have one.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's very scary and very vulnerable to be like, I have an idea, and it wouldn't be with just anybody where I'd be like, I have a loose idea. What do you think of these things so far? That I wouldn't even share that with my family or dear friends from childhood. But we sit down and I'm like, I got 18 words. Cool. What do you think about this? Take a listen to this ham-fisted guitar part.
Sure.
What do you think?
It's interesting you mentioned it because we are kind of defining what objectively that looks like in terms of a co-writing experience, kind of moving forward, really getting it streamlined. But what I think Curtis is really, really good at is just pumping out cool songs. Mm. And he's really good at, he's either hook laden, and he's very lyrically driven and oriented, so it's all going to be together. Kind of what I'm excited about is, bringing in repetition, format, the ability to just give him a bird's eye perspective on some ideas he already has, and help chop it down into kind of digestible chunks that are single songs. And sometimes it just takes a second set of eyes and ears to get the wrap around it, and that's kind of what I'm hoping to bring to the table for the most part, man, because he knows exactly what he wants to hear. I think that's cool, so just help him in when I can.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So you mentioned you're spending pretty much every minute of every waking and sleeping moment together. Does the songwriting happen on the road? When you guys are driving along, or do you save that for another?
I'd say we save it, for the most part.
For the real, getting down to it, here's an idea, let's flesh it out and see what happens, yeah. On, the day-to-day basis on the road, constantly making notes and writing things. Some of it is probably trash, and some of it could be good.
Don't judge, bud.
Yeah,
Don't judge.
I know. So, yeah, there's, every night so far, last, I think, 4 or 5 nights, I'm writing something, and then I don't look at it until there's enough time to look at it with fresh eyes to see what's there, and go from there, or be like, no, this was at 2:00 in the morning and you don't remember writing it. Throw it away.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, how do you guys kill time on the road? What do you listen to?
Well, 2 different questions, I think there.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
All right. You can answer them separately.
All right, cool. killing time on the road. We had a very unique experience today, and it's going to timestamp today.
Sure.
But we like to golf. Yeah, and there's other things that we enjoy doing. Enjoying the local foods or wherever we're at, trying to find downtime and quiet spaces. But yeah, golf's a great time because you can make it whatever you want to make it. And today it was great to be able to go out and just shoot a good scratch round of golf.
Obviously.
At Atlanta National Golf Club, and get pretty close to the course record. That was nice.
The rumor has it someone chipped in on 18 for a par.
For one of the scarcest pars of the day, but yeah, he did. I'm gonna take that. Oh man, it happened. It happened.
Yeah, they got it on CCTV. I think
I
they're
hope
sharing
they do.
it right now.
Yep.
Do you guys? I think I was part of the foursome. I think one guy actually had a birdie today. Do you guys remember?
He
who that
did?
was?
There was a
birdie.
There was a birdie.
There was a
There
birdie.
was a birdie today.
Heck yeah.
Not to rub it in.
No.
But,
I did.
no, but who do you all listen to on the road? Do you listen to music?
We do occasionally, but for the most part, it's silence.
Is it really?
Yeah. And that is, I don't know, shockingly comfortable and sometimes weirds people out. But it's great for us because there's usually a lot of noise that's always surrounding what we're doing. There's some sort of stimulus that's always happening. So then we get in the van and we drive, and we had a 5.5 hour drive from where we were in Florida to get to Atlanta, and the radio never came on until like maybe the last 15 minutes. And
Oh, no way.
then it was like a funny song that was stuck in our heads that we couldn't get out. So it was like, all right, no, we have to play Rich Girl by Hall & Oates. We just have to do this right now.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. What are you guys thinking about then when it's silent? Because that would drive me crazy.
Man, not a lot.
Yeah.
Like it's...
Try not to think about anything sometimes, on purpose.
Yeah, keeping it between the mayo and the mustard, and
Yeah.
just driving a straight line, and sometimes it's thoughts about it, like, okay, well, in my mind is like logistically where are we going, what time do we have to be there, loading in, like getting the details oriented, advancing the next few shows, and then it's random things. It's hard to explain.
Yeah,
I feel like I'm giving a terrible answer.
No,
Yeah.
that's it. Yeah, like we'll go through all that email stuff kind of at interval through the drives, but
So if I could talk or ask you about kind of your backgrounds individually. So
Yeah.
you live in Montrose, Colorado. Is that right?
I live in Montrose now. Yeah.
Are you from Colorado originally?
No, Michigan.
Michigan.
originally.
Okay.
Yeah.
How long have you been in Colorado?
8 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
What took you out there?
So long story short, left Alaska, traveled around the country for a year playing music full time to see if I could do it. Ended up in Denver, Colorado. Wasn't a huge fan of that. Went on a tour out to California and back playing shows, and ended up passing through Telluride, Colorado, and played a show where there wasn't a lot of people there, but the ones that were there were very helpful, and in a spot where they could offer up a residency playing music at Telluride Ski Resort. Yeah.
All right. That
So-
doesn't suck.
No, it was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was terrible at bargaining, and so when they were like, hey, do you want to play music here during the wintertime? We've got 2 different venues. One's on the mountain, one's down here. And I was like, oh, yeah, that sounds great. Can I have a ski pass? Like, I just wanted a lift ticket.
That was
And they
your
were like,
compensation?
yeah, and they were like, well, you got to ride the chairlift up to get to one of the venues, so yeah, you're going to need a pass. And I was like, I'm in.
Oh, my gosh.
So at that point in time, I'd had that current winter coming up, was already booked out on the road.
Yeah.
So then afterwards I came back and I played there for 4 winters, and it was 18 to 20 weeks straight, 5 to 7 shows a week, and it was a cutting teeth moment.
Yeah.
It was one of those spots.
How early how young were you when you got into music?
14 roughly.
Okay.
I can't remember if I was 13 or 14, but my parents took me to a music festival in Marquette, Michigan called Hiawatha Music Festival. And they were super cool like that. And I just fell in love with the late night scene where, in a kid's eyes, imagine looking at a bonfire and there's complete strangers around it, like let's say 15 folks or so, and they're all playing the same song. None of them hardly know anybody that they're playing the song with, but they're all doing it. And I just saw that and I was like, I want in. I want to know how to do this. Like I even from that age, I knew I wanted to travel. I wanted to get around and just see the world. And then that seemed like a pretty sweet way to like a G chord's a G chord wherever you're going, go from there.
Right.
So I picked up the guitar, learned, a little bit there, put it back down because I was young and I wanted to play football and all that kind of stuff. And then picked it up about a year later and haven't put it down since then.
Yeah. Do you think Telluride sort of your time where you really sort of got into position to hone the craft and perform?
For sure. There's probably probably two main eras of doing that, and one would have been in college and the other one would have been in Telluride. Playing that much and not having a choice, you don't get to play 30 minutes. It was 4 hours, and that was again, some days or some weeks that was 5 days a week. And if you were lucky, other days it was 3 days a week. And then sometimes you'd have to fill in for somebody else. And it was just okay, cool. What do I do now? Or do I just get really hyper focused on errorless playing? I've played this song 1,000 times. How do I do it without making any mistakes whatsoever? And then once you do that, all right, now how do I make spontaneity fit in and just continuing to try to stay engaged? But yeah, definitely that was a good spot to hone the craft.
Yeah, that's awesome. So being in Colorado, and I'm sure you have aspirations to take your talent and your music to as many people that want to hear it as possible,
mm-hmm.
right? Does being in Colorado, especially not just Denver, which is kind of not isolated, but it's in the middle of nowhere, with Kansas and Nebraska and
Sure.
Wyoming all around.
Yeah.
The Montrose is even more remote. How have you thought through that in terms of your career? Do you think you'll be able to do what you want to do based in Montrose? Have you thought about going to Nashville or Austin or whatever?
I don't think I have at this point in time any desire to move. I think there's some core tenets of my happiness, and that's my home life and road life. And I enjoy traveling. I genuinely do. And it's a lot, and there's a lot of stressors that go along with it, but I like being in Montrose. Airports make it a little bit easier to travel around if we need to fly in, fly out. Driving, you just you get into that mind frame of okay, well, it's going to be a 2-day drive before the tour starts.
Yeah.
Or you keep things local and you're well, we're going to hit Colorado hard, and then we're going to go to Utah, and now our driving radius is 500 miles or less. There is sometimes a little bit of envy when I'm following bands on Instagram or whatever, and I'm seeing their tour schedule, and they're based out of spots like Atlanta, Nashville,
right.
Some of these hubs where they can drive 2 hours, and they're never going to oversaturate a market ever because
right.
there's that many people, there's that many towns, and that many venues. Yeah, so there's certainly a pro and con situation with being in those areas. But yeah, I like my desert. I like my mountains. I like, my town. It's cool. So
no, I mean, I've lived in Colorado for 20 years and I completely miss it.
Yeah.
The Great Sand Dunes is amazing. No one ever talks about it, but it's literally the most amazing place in the country. Right. And then obviously I think Colorado isn't, you okay here?
You're doing great, man. You're doing great.
Allergies?
Yeah, what y'all didn't see was for the first half of this interview, I've had a cat named Roxy in my lap. And she's the forbidden friend. I love her so much, but I'm very allergic. So I've been sneezing for the last 5 minutes, folks. But we're back. We're back in action.
Roxy, all right.
And yes, Great Sand Dunes, highly underrated for the record. Incredible park.
Good segue.
Yeah.
No, but Colorado, the thing people don't understand about Colorado is Colorado in the summer.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, sure, skiing's great, but I don't know, you can't beat it in the summer.
You can't beat it in the summer, and some of the ski towns now are even busier in the summertime because there's ski season you have one or two things you can do in the snow, or a handful. Summertime, all bets are off. You can do whatever you want in Colorado. It's pretty cool. So
no, it's good.
Yeah.
Well, so then I want to ask about Harrison, about your background, but I've talked to a few singer-songwriters in the last few months. Not all, but they all tend to have something, whether it's their childhood, something that happened when they were adult, heartbreak, grief, addiction, whatever, that really has sort of been their turning point in their life that's really inspired their music.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have something like that, with that's part of your story, or is it just about the joy of music and songwriting and performing?
Yeah. I mean, it's all those things, and it's over different periods of life. And I think one of the biggest turning points for me was leaving a teaching career to be a full-time musician, and that was eye-opening. And I was like, okay, cool. Well, now you're living your dreams and you're doing this, but what are you going to write about? And then it was being on the road and knowing that there was a greener pasture, quote unquote, to go back to teaching. I could always do that. I had, got my license. I could do that, but purposefully not, because this thing felt more important. It felt more impactful. And it was so hard.
Yeah, man, that's a big jump for you to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. So some of the earlier songs are definitely about that, of that constant struggle. And then everywhere and in between of those categories of songwriting that you listed there, from, it's just all of that is in there.
All that's in there. Yeah. Well, that's a big deal for you to kind of leave something that's safe behind, right?
Yeah.
A regular paycheck,
all of it.
All the consistency of life, for you to pursue what you
selling everything and just going and trying and seeing what happened. And my friends and family thought I was crazy, and it took them a little while, understandably so, to be like, what are you doing? When are you going back to teaching? This is a joke, that kind of thing. And there was, little by little, there was more support and love and encouragement. And I'm so very thankful.
What did you teach?
Middle school, high school, English language arts.
Oh, I bet you were a good teacher.
Well, I was, it was fun. Yeah, had a good time. I'd like to think I was an all right teacher, but I think I was a bit more stern and strict than life now.
So was that in Alaska, or did you teach in Colorado?
No, taught in Alaska.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, yeah.
Cool. All right. So Harrison, did you grow up in Seattle?
I grew up in Murfreesboro, Tennessee.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Las Casas, to be very specific.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that East Tennessee or is that West Tennessee?
Dead center middle.
All right.
Yeah.
Are you a Vols fan?
Oh, at this point, no. I mean, if I see him on the TV, I'm not rooting against him, but I don't wear the paraphernalia, and I don't really attest to watching every week, but wish him well.
How soon did you get into music? How early?
From a serious perspective, kind of chasing down what we do now, not till later in life, not till I was kind of getting towards the end of college. I was in chorus from the time I remember, leading, singing when I was real little, that sort of thing, but playing guitar and singing, writing songs, 20, somewhere in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you always done it sort of full time, or did you have a kind of a career moment like Curtis?
A little bit less so. Played baseball through college, got done with that, and had a degree in marketing and management. Knew I didn't want to go straight into that, although I flirted with it for a little bit. Went to Alaska, was a zipline tour guide for 6 months. Around that time, I'd started playing singer-songwriter style stuff in Nashville in particular. So I was doing the country scene.
Okay.
Just didn't feel like it was a real good fit. Was going around doing all the rounds, all that sort of thing. Knew I was wanting to do something a little different. So moved to Alaska, quit playing for about 6 months, picked it back up there towards the end, and kind of had discovered the things about maybe the South and Tennessee and all those sounds that I liked, and maybe some of the things I wanted to do a little differently. That space was the first time I kind of got out of that environment, from where you hear country in the gas station and the grocery store and everywhere.
Buc-ee's.
That's it. So, just gave me a little bit of a chance to see what I was really in it for. So from there I went back to Tennessee, and that's when I recorded the first album under the name Harrison B.
Okay.
And that's kind of where that journey began.
Okay. Well, when you were in the other room sneezing your head off.
I don't know what you're talking about, dude. I handled it like a pro.
We're gonna cut. We could keep it. We could cut it.
No, it's all good. I asked Curtis about, has he thought through just the reality of being based in a remote part of Colorado, right? As it relates to the career and aspirations and exposure, right? So you've actually you've done the Nashville thing,
for sure.
Right? You know what that is, and you live in Seattle, which. It's not that remote, but it's it's not known as Music City other than grunge rock from the 90s. But do you see that as what's your perspective on that? Having been in Nashville and now live in Seattle, do you think it matters?
Like what your hometown is?
Well, not with the hometown, but just in terms of growing your visibility, growing your presence, and getting more ears and eyes on your art.
Well, yes and no, and it kind of depends on where you're at. I feel like kind of at our juncture, like where we're talking to you today in this game, where we live isn't as much of consequence, because the majority of our exposure, visibility, and touring are done on the road. So home is home,
Yeah.
which could be anywhere. For me, the reason, I mean, when I was local in Seattle, I enjoyed, there's a deep scene there, still alive very much so. KEXP is one of the largest independent stations, you know, just shout out them.
Yep.
But beyond that, even, like, there's a great airport there, and we can go anywhere. And when we're touring the country at this point, pretty legitimately, you know, not that's just factual what's happening. So it's like, as long as we can fly somewhere that makes sense, as long as, you know, get into Denver, get into the van, that sort of thing. If we're on the West, you know, we could live where we need to, you know, kind of be wherever you want. But that's kind of what it feels like at this point. There definitely is some credence to, you know, if you're trying to just get your feet on the ground and make some connections, that sort of thing, Nashville's a big deal for you. You know, with those increased numbers come more of a wave of talent you need to fight through. And you just got to remain authentic through that whole deal. I think would be the key there. But other than that, once you kind of established your tour and you're doing your thing, home should be home. And when you're there, you shouldn't be worried about seeing eyeballs, I think. But that's just my take, man.
Oh, that's good. That's a good answer.
Goes back to what I was saying about Montrose. It's like it is what it is, and it's where it's at, and I love it. So it's go home, and it's like that's that big deep breath sigh. Now I'm home. I'm not this. Like there is a clear distinction between, you know, always being on when you're on the road, and when you go home, you're like, nah, I just get to exist. I just get to be me.
Yeah, that's great. All right. So just a couple more questions. I want to talk about one of the songs. One of my favorites is "Little Change." Mm-hmm. Was that written in a period of, you know, talking about the change of the career? What inspired that song?
That one. That song is inspired by realizing that playing shows that don't make you happy should not be a thing. There's, you know, you can't just cut everything and play shows that make you happy and then forget you got to still pay bills. But there's a mental shift, a paradigm shift that happened when that song came out, to where I said no to one thing that I knew could be safe forever. And it wasn't the teaching career. It was just like a consistency that, you know, it was always going to be there, and it wasn't what the end result. It wasn't what I wanted. No. So it was like, cool, then scrub it, cut it out with scissors. It's done. Move on and see what happens next. And that was a very scary leap. And that song is based on that.
I love it. So I've seen a performance of that when it was you and then someone else from a few years ago, right?
Sure.
It's an older song. And then you guys just released something that was like Big Sky
bonus tracks.
Yeah, you guys were in like a barn or something, and it's you two, and it's the best.
All right.
Yeah, right.
Good.
Thank you. Yeah,
thanks,
seriously,
man.
like, because I think Harrison. So, you know, one of my friends bought one of your CDs, it was like a live CD in Florida.
Yeah.
And he's listened to it, and he's like, was it the guy that we saw? Was it the two guys we saw in Florida? And I'm like, I don't think so. And then I sent him that video, and he's like, the sound's way better now, you know?
It's different, yeah.
Even that song, it's different, right?
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to,
that was fun.
It was a fun video shoot. Yeah, it was wild. The folks that run Big Sky Bonus Track, shout out, like they do a great job. They run a tight ship. But we were on the inside of a barn, like next to a highway behind a bar.
Oh my gosh.
And they were like, all right, cool, this is the plan. We're like, sick. We're in. Yeah. We'd been on the road for a couple of weeks, and we had covered some serious ground. Yeah. And then we got there, and it was a trip.
Oh, that's good. Fun. That's good. What do you so after the tour, what do you guys have planned for the rest of 2024 in terms of releases and things like that?
In terms of releases, that's going to be a TBD. Yeah, it's one of those things where, like, we're on the road right now, so it's hard to think about getting back into the studio and, hammering down on some new tunes, because we like touring. That's what we do. That's what we're good at. And so we do that, and we schedule. Like, we were getting phone calls today about exciting opportunities happening in the coming months, and our summer is absolutely jam-packed. So we're looking at it now as, like, these are the exciting things this summer. Is like striking while the iron is hot, opening up and supporting for other bands, headlining things on our own that, we've either done in the past or it's new to us. We're really riding that wave and enjoying every moment of it. And then we'll figure out a time to get back in the studio. The material is there. It's going to continue coming. Nice. And so we just need dedicated time to hammer it out. But for now, we're having a blast with what we're doing.
No, that's good. All right. Well, a question for each of you. What are you most curious about today?
Curious about today? Like in life?
Yeah,
like,
in life, yeah.
You got a hot take on that?
Yeah, I do. I think it's. I'm curious what Pete Dye. Who hurt him? I'm curious who hurt Pete Dye to make him stick bunkers on the sides of 40-foot vertical grass walls, and then another one halfway up the thing as well. So I'd love to ask him that. Curious.
That's a
Who
good
hurt
question.
Pete Dye?
Great question.
Yeah, we're gonna bring that to the people and get it out there. We need an answer ASAP, just so we can understand it. What am I curious about? How's the van doing? There's a lot of like simple curiosities. Yeah.
Just life.
Getting
through the day.
Yeah. Can I go to space at some point? I have a really nice NASA shirt. I've been wearing it a lot. Yeah. There's some other things, but yeah, those are probably two that are on the top of my head.
Curtis, can I just tell you, as a former teacher, I would have expected more. But
No, just dropping the ball on the hot take with the curious.
It's been a long day, I guess.
Yeah. I don't know what I would say otherwise. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I enjoyed spending the day with you today.
Hey,
enjoyed
on the golf
with you,
course,
man.
and thanks for being here. And thanks for your time. I would love if you guys played some music for us.
Heck yeah, man.
We're stoked to play for you. Thanks for everything.
See you, man. Bye.
See you, bud.
Season's gonna change and so must I. New part of the year and a part of me's die, not of mine. This little change is gonna come. Wait till you see me like a summer setting sun. Never found so free in my life. Where I go from here, the choice is mine, and you can't take that away. This little change is gonna come. Lock me up and I'll get away, like a summer setting sun. All of my time here, I wouldn't say it's been wasted. Even though I may have been, you should have seen the dreams I was chasing. Well, everybody tells me I'm meant for greatness. Yeah, I wanna believe it. Most times it's hard to see it. This little change is gonna come. I wouldn't say it's been wasted. Even though I may have been, you should have seen the dreams I was chasing. Everybody tells me I'm meant for greatness. Yeah, I wanna believe it. Most times it's hard to see it. This little change is gonna come. Yeah, this little change is gonna come. Yeah, this little change is gonna come. Yeah, this little change is gonna come. Thank you very much. What an incredible backyard. Taking a moment to look around and be like, wow, where are we? With this little oasis garden? This is amazing. I got to run to keep from hiding, yet I'm bound to keep on riding. Well, I got one more silver dollar, but I'm not gonna let them catch me, no. Not gonna let them catch the midnight rider. I don't own the clothes I'm wearing. Someone I'll soon be sharing. Well, I got one more silver dollar, but I'm not gonna let them catch me, no. Not gonna let them catch the midnight rider. Mr. Harrison B on electric guitar, y'all. Like on past the point of caring. The end is the road goes on forever. Like I want more silver dollar, but I'm not gonna let them catch me, no. Not gonna let them catch the midnight rider. No, I'm not gonna let them catch me, no. Not gonna let them catch the midnight rider. No, I'm not gonna let them catch me, no. Not gonna let them catch the midnight rider.
Thanks so much for joining us for another episode of Curious Goldfish. Please follow and subscribe to the podcast and on social media. Also, tell your music-loving friends about us too. Until next time, stay curious.